All right, everyone, we're going to gather back for our next panel, and introducing that will be Josh Noddiff.
Hi, everyone. How are we all feeling? Thank you for being here. I am Josh Noddiff. I am one of the co-founders of the Broadway Climate Summit. I also run an organization called the Climate Imaginarium, which is a center for climate community and culture on Governor's Island here in New York City. And I am excited to introduce our next panel, which is Artivism, Shifting Culture Through Creative Practice. So please give a big round of applause to our panelists and our moderator, Kevin J. Patel, who will introduce the other panelists.
Thank you, Josh. Hey, everyone. It's so good to be here. I hope you all can hear me clearly. Yes? Yes? Perfect. I'm going to welcome our panelists, Antonique Smith, Pablo, Ruth, and Nate. I think so, yeah. Here you go.
You can be on either side.
Okay. Oh, thank you.
Like it's a little confusing, y'all, directionally. All right. I hope that you guys all enjoyed the first panel, right? Yeah? Yes? Perfect. I heard it was very, very invigorating, if I can say so myself. A very, very nice panel. Really loved it. I think. By the way, give it up for another hand of applause for our previous panel, because I just want to make sure, like, they started us off with the summit. They literally did. Before we begin, I'm going to ask you guys to do a little wiggle with me, all right? So we're all going to stand up. We're all going to just stand up. Well, a shake up, you know? We're going to leave our emails behind us. We are going to forget about the person that we have a meeting with at 4 a.m., at 6 p.m. We're going to forget all about the meetings. We're going to just enjoy our time. We're going to be present. We're going to dance, right? Did that bring up the energy? Yes? All right, I have a little other surprise for you. Antonique, would you mind singing for us, bringing some joy and grounding in? And this is on the spot, y'all. I did not prep her, so let's see what look. Yes?
Who is the surprise for? A surprise for me.
It's a surprise for me. It's my birthday.
Oh, Kevin's birthday tomorrow. Happy birthday, Kevin. I guess that's a song I could sing. Do you want Broadway or climate or both?
Broadway climate.
Okay. So Broadway first. I was Mimi in Rent, so I'll sing a bit of one of my favorite songs in Rent, Another Day. The heart may freeze, or it can burn. The pain will ease if I can learn. There is no future, there is no past. I live this moment as my last. There's only us. There's only this. Forget, regret. Oh, life is yours to miss. No other road, no other way, no day but today. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you so much. And climate would be, I would say, a little bit of my song, Love Song to the Earth. This is a love song to the earth. You're no ordinary world, a diamond in the universe. Heaven's poetry to us. Keep it safe. Keep it safe. Keep it safe. 'Cause it's our world. Thank you.
Y'all, this deserves a standing ovation. Look at that on the spot. Come on, give it up for Antonique Smith. Let's stand up for her. Come on. Look, I'm just like, this was great. This was amazing. Thank you so much, Antonique, for grounding us and bringing in some joy. With that being said, we'll begin the panel. All right, y'all, I like to begin with the first question. It's going to be a little bit of an interesting one. It's all around the artist. What role do artists play in movements of change? What role does art play in creating change? Antonique, do you want to take it off with our first question?
Yes. Did you want us to introduce ourselves first, too?
Oh, good. Yes.
Are we all going to answer this question? Like, we can introduce ourselves and then okay.
Let's do that.
So, yeah, it's 30 seconds. I'm Antonique Smith. I am a Broadway film and television actress. I'm a Grammy-nominated singer, and I am thank you, and I am CEO. I'm very proud of this one, too. CEO and co-founder of Climate Revival. Thank you very much. So, the role of artists, Tony Cade Bambara said the role of the artist is to make the revolution irresistible. That is exactly what our role is. I mean, you know, the movement has to be cool. It has to, people have to want to fight. And climate, bless the movement, has not done the best job at explaining what the problem is, at explaining why we should care. I remember when I joined the movement 11 years ago, all I knew about climate was polar bears and ice glaciers, and we love polar bears, we love glaciers, we need it. But I'm from East Orange, New Jersey. I had never seen either one of those things, and it did not feel important or relevant or like urgent to me. But when I found out that the pollution that's in my neighborhood that's giving people cancer and asthma is the same pollution that's causing climate change, I was blown away. Like, whoa, it's way more urgent and way more right now than I ever could believe. And now 7 million people, 8 million people a year are dying of air pollution. So if people understood the problem, I think they would, and understood how personal this fight is. It's not just about our existence in the future. It's what's happening right now in our bodies. It's not just our existence, it's our health today. And so I think art, the word art is in the word heart, right in the middle of the word heart, for a very special reason. It's because art changes hearts. And I feel so honored to God gave me these gifts to touch hearts, to change hearts, because what we have right now in this movement is a heart problem. The world, the people who think it's a hoax, all of the hate, all of the things, all the poly crisis that we're dealing with is all heart problems. It's a heart issue. It's a love problem. It's a lack of love. Profits over people is a lack of love. It's a heart thing. Nothing changes or touches the hearts like art. So that is 100% our role. That is what we need. We need more artists right now. We need us desperately right now. Calling all artists.
I got one.
Oh, you got one. Okay.
Hi, everyone. I'm Pablo Hernandez Basulto. I'm the director of civic artistic programs at the Public Theater. And I lead two big programs, the mobile unit that travels all around the city, bringing free shows to parks and correctional facilities and community centers, and Public Works that does the reverse. It invites members of community organizations from all over the city to audition, and we do an annual show with 100 New Yorkers on stage alongside professional actors to try to tell different kinds of stories. So you're gonna watch us agree over and over with each other in this panel. When we were preparing for it, I felt the same way. Completely agree that it's about the soul. I'm sure we all have books or TED Talks or things that change our minds, and for me, I always bring up this book called The Dream of the Earth by Thomas Berry, a book from the 80s. And in the 80s, this author is saying, he's a scientist, he's saying, how come this data and the science is so clear and no one's doing anything about it? It's so clear and no one is moved by it. And I completely agree. In the book, he has a call for artists, like, help us move people. So I agree with the problem of the soul, not a problem of the mind. It's not necessarily that, oh, if we do one more report, that will get it, you know? And we need the extra reports because someone needs to be documenting what we're going through, but we desperately need artists to be educated so that we can help move the soul, because that's what's needed. You got one too, perfect.
Yachlidu everyone, Łchav'aya K'isen Miller. Den enakanaga shatkun kanasht u chiriangel nanish ite. Shidas naka Heather Kendall Miller shunkta ch Lloyd Miller stukta ch u chiknik yaktal hanut bagut yachli et sette. My name is Ruth Łchav'aya K'isen Miller. I am a Dena'ina, born and raised in my homelands in Dahayakak, Anchorage, Alaska. But today I work in the intersection of food sovereignty, climate justice, and as well as a performer here in the city. Born and raised in my homelands, my very first career, my ancestral career, was in climate justice and environmental justice. I worked since the age of 15 against extractive resources projects in Alaska, and from there began working in a lot of climate policy. And I see some faces that have been through the battlefields with me in this room. That policy work led me through not just protest and direct action, but also through policy writing and negotiations on national and international spaces. But starting so young and failing to tend to my personal work, my family work, my ancestral work, I found that in my early 20s, after 10 years working for my land, for my people, for our climate, I was completely burnt out, and more than that, I was devastatingly sick. I developed a chronic pain disease that debilitated me, and I began being challenged in my theory of change. I felt that it had been my purpose to martyr myself for my homelands, for our climate, because what else could be so important as to fight for that which we love, that which gave birth to us, that which grew us, that gifted us life, which is our land. And yet, I was being brought to my knees in a way that I couldn't understand. And in that place, in that abyss, in that place of transformation, in that death, there was also rebirth and an invitation to reconnect to the gifts that I've been given. And a new, deeper understanding that climate storytelling is not just feeding the world these stories of our tragedies in Alaska, the Arctic, where we're facing climate change first and worst. It is also being a vessel for transformative joy and pleasure and all of the art that we are desperate to imagine in the world that's going to come next. And so I gave myself the gift of 2 years at Musical Theater Conservatory and have just finished my training as a musical theater artist. But more than that, I kind of see myself as a public learner and a technician, because as I began transitioning my climate work to center more around the arts and generative solutions. I now co-direct a food sovereignty nonprofit and a mutual aid network back home in Alaska. As I began considering what that means as a performer and a singer and an actor, I realized that not only do we need content about the climate crisis to help people see this portal into what could be and what is happening in our world, to help people access their empathy and their care, we also need acting and singing and dancing, because it is our birthright as human beings. And the play, the playfulness, the imagination that I discovered through my training opened up so much for me in my understanding of the body, of our traditional indigenous healing ways, of what has to be included in this next step. So I very fundamentally believe that theater, making theater, vocal, improv, community singing, all of these are climate solutions as well.
Hi, I'm Nate Smith. I am one of the founders of the Broadway Climate Summit. I also founded and direct the Sixth Fest, which is named after the sixth mass extinction event, which you may know is going on right now. And I am so honored to be on this panel and that this is going so well so far after 4 or 5 months of work. Theater saved my life. I was ditching almost all of high school except for theater. And reflecting on that over the last number of years, I recognized that theater, besides sports, our school was one of many that didn't have like metal shop anymore or anything like that. It was one of the only spaces in all of our educational institutional system where the students are standing in front and the teacher is sitting, and we're standing together. And no wonder I wanted to go have fun and did not care about going to math class. And here I am, and what role the arts have to play, I think, is largely the same role they played in individual life. Martin Luther King said that the point of nonviolent direct action is to dramatize the situation that we are in. And that word just like really stayed with me. I was like, dramatize, that's what I do. And I'm also an organizer with Climate Defiance and Extinction Rebellion. I've been to prison, jail a number of times for mostly, we call it staging a protest. We are literally getting down to, especially the more that the movement is online, like, fix your hair, maybe, before you're in front of the camera. Or not, it's an aesthetic. We work on our lines and our parts. We rehearse. We meet up in a literal art studio at Extinction Rebellion. It's very, very theatrical, which has like puppets and paints all over our art studio. And we rehearse, people tearing us off of a line and yelling at us so that the body can get used to it. I don't consider them different things at all. We're so categorical in our approach. We distinguish things because they're more easily labeled and conquered, I think, is a big part of it. I don't think theater is any different at all from activism or vice versa. And I just, like, every time I have a microphone in my hand, I'm like asking people to join the movement. You don't have to be one of the ones ending up in handcuffs, just like with our armed services. For every person on the battlefield, there's 10 in support. If you're a writer or a stage manager, we could definitely use more stage managers in the movement. But like Ruth was saying, I get my joy out of the arts, and something as simple as one of my last protests was, I always hesitate to like say these things to people because of the intensity of the backlash that they receive, but I used chalk fake spray paint to spray paint the faux presidential seal, which is itself a theatrical prop in Trump Tower on Earth Day, partially to test what they were doing and are doing. A simple 3-letter, I just wrote USA because it would be the hardest word to call a terrorist act. It's theater. That was theater. And the right is correct to call that a theatrical stunt because it matters, because it captures the imagination, I think, is the point of art, is our imagination can be transformed through 2 hours of sitting in a space with people as brilliant as all of you are.
Well, you heard from our incredible 4 panelists. You're about to hear from me, the moderator, because look, I'm gonna talk up a storm. Nate, thank you so much. Ruth, Pablo, and Antonique, thank you so much. I mean, God, I'm one of the audience members just listening to them speak to me. I think, I just want to go off this theme of like joy and like this heart, right? Antonique, it's like we as a movement, have been, I wouldn't say struggling, but we have a disconnect happening in our space. And also, I think recently, for, since the orange guy in the office, let me not bring him up. But since, this administration, if we can even call it that, has come into power, it's been a lot of doom and gloom, right? I look down because I'm like, I can't look at your faces and say this out loud. And it's a lot, it is a lot emotionally. But I think when we think about the arts, when we think about our role, I always think about how emotional and that emotional connection that art plays in our everyday lives. It is what drives our society, truly, right? It is what is making us show up continuously every single day. And art is in many different forms, musical, Broadway, and Hollywood, and entertainment, all of these, different ways of expression. But my next question for the panelists is really kind of touching on this emotional and storytelling connection. And I think one of the, I'll go on the roles because I think roles are so important, right? what role does emotional connection and storytelling play to Artivism? And, art is already inherently emotional, but if y'all can, lightning speed, talk about the emotional and storytelling connection to Artivism.
The lightning speed, okay. Yeah, I mean, it's one and the same. It's totally connected. I think why art is so effective is because it's emotional. I mean, even advertising uses emotion. They play on your emotions to get you to, because they've done the science, and we act when our emotions have been moved in a way. And so that is why art is so effective, because it touches our emotions. I had a top brain surgeon tell me that they use music. Now, we think in surgery, like, he does actual surgery on people's brains, but he said they use music to heal the brain. And it's incredible. I think it's a divine thing. I think art, all the forms of it, because they all move you. That just like Nate was saying, how he drew something. Like, we need all of the arts and all of the ways. I like to use the word, the title of a movie, Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. We need that. We need all of the arts and all the different forms. We need more everything, more physical art, sculptures, paintings. We need books. We need movies, more TV. We need more music. We need everybody to come together, and because there's not just one way to tell this story. That's why storytelling is so beautiful. There's so many angles that have not been explored about everything that is encompassing in this movement. And if we were to be more creative and use people's emotions and joy. I love that you spoke about joy, because that's another part of it. I think that's a part of the resistance that we should be using more is joy. I was a part of Sunday. I'm the ambassador of Bill McKibben's Sunday, and that was yesterday. And it was a beautiful day at Stuyvesant Square. I mean, actually, there was 500 events around the country, but ours was right here in the city, and it was joyful. There was children drawing with chalk on the ground. They were drawing suns and clouds and all these beautiful things, and there were people, and everybody just was happy. And that was, to me, a form of resistance. That was a form of, coming together. And I sang, so I brought a little bit of the art, and I guess the babies were doing the art on the ground, and it was just really wonderful. We need more joy. We need more hope. We have hope because we have solutions. We don't have to ask Silicon Valley or some scientists to get in the lab and create something. We have the sun. We have solar. It's cheaper. It's beautiful. So art will be a better storyteller to help people understand where we are, the solutions we have, why we should have hope, why we need to come together, why we need people power, like all of the messaging, why even the pollution, all of it, all of the climate, everything that encompasses this movement needs to be used through storytelling so that people can understand, they can be informed, and be moved by it. And I think, honestly, that's the next frontier. I think that's what's been missing. And I think if everybody in the movement leans more towards it instead of away from that, I think that's how we win.
Very, very much agree with that. I think what I would add is we're fighting against numbness. I really feel like I see it every day now that we are. The way we were chatting about it when we were preparing for the Zoom I was sharing, it's a scientific fact that we understand the world through stories. It's not. We say so much stories matter. We can preach it really nicely, but it's nice to come back down to the foundation. That's how we evolved to understand information. That's how we were able to pass information down as a species. That's what we used, and so our stories, in a way, are hijacked for profit, and so the state of our human being is in a state of numbness when. I was saying to my boyfriend yesterday, there used to be movies. I remember movies. Remember that? Like, I just feel like I don't see as many stories that captivate me anymore. Just moving through the algorithm, and we're fighting against that state. And what obsesses me with theater since I was a kid is that it gathers. I've always enjoyed that aspect. I feel like community I do a lot of community engagement. The whole point here is we're bringing people together in space. And so what I would add to the steering of the soul would be in terms of our role, we have an opportunity to organize. I love the quote earlier of everyone wants to go to a party. And if we think about what it takes now for people to leave their phones, just by design. It's not about shame. It's just because it's designed to be addictive, how much harder we need to work to gather people. And then the opportunity we have, once we have people in a room, the opportunity we have as artists to help them organize. In Public Works, we have people from all over the city, community organizations that we're inviting to be in a massive show. And if you look at our data, the moment when we meet the most new people is when we have auditions. So the same flyer at the same community partner that says, join an acting class, that might give us 15 people. But when we say, come audition and be a part of a massive show with 100 people, you're gonna be, in the biggest stage of New York. Like, the exciting invitation is what allows to cut through a bunch of numbness, a bunch of I don't belong, of a bunch of I can't do this. And then we see a bunch of people show up to audition because so a part of it is like the party that we host is a crucial aspect too.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's exactly where my train of thought was going as well, about this crisis of feeling, this crisis of numbness that we're all facing. And I feel it myself as well, particularly having relatively recently moved to New York City and being so constantly overstimulated, especially with other people and other people's stuff, that driving myself to remain open to being affected by the world. By the time I go home to my little studio, I found myself facing new levels of apathy because I had to insulate myself. I had to find some amount of privacy. And yet, in theater and the arts and storytelling, that is exactly what we are trying to break through. But I would say it's not breaking through in a pushing people to be on their phones and read the news more and watch another thing. It's about finding ways to do it together. And that is what I believe is so sacred about the theater, because we as performers are challenging ourselves to live, to portray human life and human emotion, to feel deeply, so that audience members have permission to join us in that experience for a couple hours, for however long it may be, without distraction, just to feel things together, to respond to these human, or, as we were reminded in the last panel, potentially more than human relationships. That is to me a sacred kind of ceremony that we so rarely get to experience together, to witness each other. And I think that is the antidote to so much of this isolationism and apathy, and this feeling of hopelessness that I'm sure if we're all here in this room, every single one of us must be feeling every day. We are sorry to just throw that out.
You did not even remind us about that. I love you though.
I mean, it's true, and I think back to an experience that I had studying acting. Our school has a strong Meisner curriculum, and I was in a class doing a repetition exercise. If you know, you know. And my wonderful mentor and great teacher, Chris Halliday, kind of interrupted me, and he's like, "Stop being so nice. Why are you being so nice? She's clearly making you angry. Just get angry." And I'm thinking, okay, look, I've been stuck at this for a while because I trained as a public speaker and a climate activist and a Native woman. You think that I get to stop performing and be vulnerable in front of people ever? I don't know how to do that. This was a huge block for me. And at some point I realized, like, what does it take for me in this room of predominantly white people, what does it take for me to let myself be in my anger, to just get as unhinged as I need to be on this poor other student who, in the setting of the scene, was making me very angry? What does it mean for me as an actor to train myself to access those feelings again when me as an activist and me as a woman in the world never gets to do that? What is that potential? And I think so often when we don't feel those feelings, when we don't feel the deep empathy and compassion and heartbreak and love that this world is demanding of us, it sits within us. It metastasizes. How do we use theater technique? How do we use the connection of theater to help it metabolize instead, to help it move through us, and then to help it move through other people? You know, what is the power, that energetic wave of feeling and care, and how can that be transformed into action? But it starts with unlocking that freedom within ourselves, and that takes work.
Facts.
Yeah, I haven't figured it out.
Yeah. Agree with everything. I majored in rhetoric, and the base elementary level of rhetoric is that logic and language-driven communication is the least persuasive. And there's a reason why Dr. James Hansen, the NASA scientist who broke climate change to the world a month after I was born in the 80s, is now writing a book, and another NASA scientist, Peter Kalmus, who both are getting chased. Hansen got chased out of NASA even under Obama's administration, and NASA now, as you can probably guess, isn't doing so great either. So Kalmus is always asking people to make more art about this, and pathos is the next level, the emotional resonance level that we're the most persuaded by. But 85% of what we're persuaded by is ethos, which is character. And I think that character is theater. Like you were saying, you developed this persona of somebody who does not get vulnerable. That's your ethos. And it's transmutable. And I think we certainly need, I've been paying attention to in my own writing, heroism keeps coming up in my main characters, and like the need for, we just don't really tell you, we're mentioning movies now, like, where are the heroes? And I don't mean the like Marvel fix problem with your fists stuff. Like, where do we have heroes anymore, especially in theater? Like, Jesus. Yeah. Do we have belief in anything anymore? Yeah. Because most of the, like, my brand of theater that I swim in is like closer to documentary or realism, and we've just like given over to postmodern, God is dead and nothing matters anymore. And I'd really like to see some heroes return. Not to say that nobody's doing that. It's just we need it. We need it. Yeah.
Look, you all can be heroes. You all can be artivists. You all can be activists. I think that's the role that we all play, is that we can all show up, right? And Nate put it so wisely that we need more heroes. So how do you show up to be a hero? You're doing it today. Look, I think I want to get to the action, because I think we talk about the emotional connection and storytelling, and we talk about the role of the artist in the movement, and those are all important things, but if we're not giving opportunities or pathways for the artists to really, do this mission-driven work, then there's no point. So my question to you all, and feel free, anyone in the panel, if you guys just want to answer, but how do we build more opportunities and pathways for the artists to do this work, to do this mission-driven work?
I created my own organization. I've been in the movement 11 years, and it felt very like I had to wait for some other organization to have something that they wanted to have me do something. And a lot of times it's even that they want, they think you're gonna bring an audience, so they choose you because you have a bunch of followers or that kind of thing. And it's not because they really value the art, and so, or your contribution necessarily. And so I went to my very good friend, Rev Yearwood, the great Rev Yearwood is my co-founder. Yes, he's amazing. Is my co-founder at Climate Revival. I went to him and I said, well, what can we do to do more? Because I don't want to just have to wait for somebody to call me just because we want somebody to open the people's hearts. I want to proactively open hearts. I want to proactively make an impact. I want to proactively do more touch more people and inform more people and do it the way that I want to do it, the way that I believe it should be done, or the way I believe is missing. And so sometimes, and it's not easy, it's been, starting an organization has, I learned a whole lot. It's my first time being a CEO. It was something else. But it's beautiful because I feel like I'm being active, more active than I have ever been in the 11 years I've been in this movement. And so that's kind of a big ask to say just do it. Sometimes you have to just make the ways yourself, and I'm hoping that as I continue to build Climate Revival, that I'm able to make more opportunities for other artists within what we're doing. But sometimes you really do have to just find a way. If you have something on your heart to say, and what's beautiful is now, because social media is the blessing and the curse, you can take the blessing of it and put your whatever it is out there, and it can reach people in a way that wasn't as easy so many years ago. Well, not very many years ago, actually, just probably like 10 or 15 years ago. It wasn't as easy to reach people as it is now. So yeah, for me, it was just doing my own thing. Yeah.
Okay. I'll add to a good option, doing your own thing. I can speak a little bit on doing it within an institution. I work for the Public Theater, and I think a lot of the emphasis of the programs that I lead is about continuing to push a little bit what we take for granted of what these institutions are for, their function in society. We just did a performance of an adaptation of Shakespeare at the Cathedral of St. John the Divine on 112th, beautiful space. And me and the dean of the cathedral got to welcome the audiences every night. And after one of the performances, she was saying to me, "Oh, I really like what you said about the function of theater in society." And I said, well, not really about the function of theater. I'm really talking about the function of a theater institution. What is an institution for? And I said, I'm sure you're dealing with something similar. There's a new dean of the cathedral. And I said, you're dealing with something similar. It's not really about what spirituality is for. It's what the church is for. What is the building that you're leading for? And she was saying completely. Many people in her life have said, and I should ask the dean before I keep telling her words, but I'm sure she would agree, and she's very vocal about it. Why am I helping fund this building? Should all this money just go directly to helping people? And in cultural institutions, I've heard often the case, should all that money just go directly to artists? Should it stop going to these buildings and these places? And then the dean said, but there is something about the power that the building can gather long term. She's able to get a meeting with the mayor because she's the dean of the cathedral, but not if it was just on her own. And so I'm thinking a lot about, in terms of action, there is something about, the public has been doing free Shakespeare in parks since the 60s, and so there is a reputation there. And so how do I continue to wield that? It's partially it's power, it's privilege, but it's also intimacy. There's a sense of relationship to an institution that we gotta take advantage of. In my work, so much is achieved through intimacy. I don't convince a domestic worker who has never seen herself on stage to audition and then be in a massive show unless I know her name. She knows my name. We know what subway she's going to take to make it to the theater, right? Like there's a knowing that's important. And so there's something about institutions that helps in that as well, I find. People, when it says the public, that means something to people. There's a relationship somehow that's been built, and how we take advantage of that feels like a big opportunity in action.
Yeah, I mean, we have some incredible, exceptional examples of homegrown organizations that are doing so much beautiful work, and the way that our cultural institutions are answering this call. And
Cultural. I was talking about climate institutions.
Yeah,
We're not.
yeah.
Cultural,
Agreed.
though, yes. Get with the cultural institutions. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, the climate institutions need more culture,
Yeah,
and the cultural
facts.
institutions are learning about delivering on climate. So that's why we're here.
Sorry, I just wanted to
No,
make
please.
that- yes, I love the cultural. Y'all are definitely, yes, go ahead.
But I think the part of the conversation that I would add to is this moment of intimacy, and intimacy with ourselves and with others. Because to me, at least through my learning, if I worked 10, 15 years in climate organizing, I never understood, even as an indigenous woman raised in my culture, the medicine that is within our own bodies and our own voices, and the ways that we have to protect and caretake for that medicine. I was out on, the front lines of protests and out in negotiation rooms and at the COP for 20-hour days, whatever, and I was never caring for my body. I was relying on my voice and my feet and my movement and my posture to deliver a climate message, but I wasn't tending to the medicine within myself, and I wasn't considering the somatic necessity of tending to my voice that I'm, from an indigenous perspective, asking to deliver messages, information, and emotion, and ancestral knowledge. So how are we as activists treating ourselves as artists? Because now, as a performing artist, I have a different kind of obligation to take care of my voice, because my body is my instrument, and it is also my vessel for my career. And so as an artist I can conceive of that, but I certainly didn't as an activist. Why? What is that relationship? What is that reunion that we need between our mission, our action, and our bodies? And the way that we see ourselves as the method to achieving that has to come with love and care and all these things that we consider as like dreamy one day when we have them in the future and everything's fixed. It's like we need to be bringing that imaginative, beautiful space that we're fighting for into the present moment, and that comes with permission from the self, and that comes with permission from others. So much of the ways that I've found this nexus of action has been through vocal improv, through getting involved with organizations that bring people together for the beauty of singing, for the beauty of making voice, of making noise together, of reuniting with this incredibly, primal human thing, because, from our cultural perspective, that is also action, putting song into the world, not just for the sake of making people feel, but because the vibrational power of that song, whether you are a spiritual person or not, somatically, scientifically impacts the body, not just your own, but the vibration of the bodies that are receiving it. So how are we coming back to the transformational power that each of us has just by nature of being a human being? Then adding the ways that we organize, then adding these cultural and climate institutions and the ways that we can leverage them to reach people, to bring people together. But it all starts with this profound magic and medicine that we have within ourselves to connect with ourselves now, to know ourselves, to protect our bodies, to raise our standard for care for ourselves so that we can do the same for others and for the next extension, our communities, our planet.
Love it. Who put this girl next to me? I have to follow that every time. Avenues for art, what a great question. You're looking at it. This is an avenue. Kelsey Bell will be leading a workshop on her amazing musical opera experience of our planet just later this afternoon. And if you come, you can then perform in the evening culmination performance alongside Broadway actors and people who have never acted in their life. I don't know. I've not heard of that before. I've not heard of a stage in New York that is offering, besides a workshop, improv, something where you can just come and be staged, platformed, or public works kind of stuff. This division we have, again, back to that labeling of especially in an industry like this, of there being such hierarchy is horrid. Yeah. Most of the most amazing art that I've seen is in a junior college writing class. Or an open mic. Oh my God. And the worst, which is also really fun to watch. But I'm far more likely to be entertained in the non-stratified spaces. I'm much more likely to be bored the more money is involved. It sucks. And so I would we need the same thing that is happening to our planet is happening to the theater, has been happening. It's happening to all of us as individual artists, as collectives, and if we don't find another way, if we don't find something to value besides the bottom line, it'll be the last one.
Yep. Yep.
Y'all think it's hard to follow up after each other. I mean, it's hard to follow up with all of y'all. So I'm looking at my notes. I'm like, what can I say? What can I say? What can I concoct to, talk to y'all? Look, I'm gonna be done with the questions. I'm gonna hand it off to the audience. You guys are gonna be the moderators, but I'm only gonna choose 3 of you. Sorry. We have a little performance for y'all, a little special thing that Nate put together. He's forcing me. Anyone call the authorities to do this performance. All right, who has a question for us? And let's go with this, Sean. No, you have a high voice. Come on.
You know me and Mike. I'm Sean Sweeney. Hey. My question was kind of thinking about the future and imagination. So much of the climate movement is about science and policy and sort of fixing the systems that we have. And I think a lot of us know those systems haven't worked for a long time. And why are we fixing what's broken and reinforcing all kinds of other issues, racial and otherwise. So I'm wondering about kind of climate futures. I'm a big Dr. Ayanna Johnson fan and her What If We Get It Right? So I'm wondering just about how theater and artivism can sort of inspire and put as many of us as possible into thinking about new systems and using imagination and putting us in that kind of gear instead of just continuing to reflect on what's broken.
I love this question, Sean. I'm gonna set the panelists up for this question because I had it in imagination. The movement is craving imagination. That's 1 point. 2 point, right? Funding is being pulled and deprioritized from a lot of the arts, right? And we're seeing that left and right where, millions and millions of dollars, or even the arts are being overtaken. And then the third point is imagination as an infrastructure. We all have the ability to imagine. We just have to do it, comes with a lot of risk, comes with a lot of resistance, it comes with a lot of boldness and imagination. So with that, setting that 3-prong up, who would like to answer Sean's question?
I mean, you just kind of answered it, Kevin. Rev Yearwood says something that I really love. He says we're in a crisis of imagination, not just a climate crisis, but a crisis of imagination. And so it is just going to take rooms like this with people who are already thinking about that, people who have the ideas already. There's people, I'm sure, in this room already have something, already have a script idea or a story. It doesn't even have to be fully fleshed out. But the people who have the ideas and already all understand the need for this just have to start to come together. I mean, this is a beautiful week. I'd like to actually steal what Nate said, we need more heroes. Let's call this, instead of Climate Week, let's call it Heroes Week amongst ourselves. We are the heroes that we are looking for, honestly. And so if we just start to connect this week, we're gonna see each other all week at 10 different things. So as we see each other and start having these conversations, we need to start collaborating so that we can, because Kevin also said it, the funds have dried up. This administration has spooked all of the people who were funding all of the fighters. Mark Ruffalo is a good friend of mine, and he said, fund the fighters. I will never forget that he said, fund the fighters. And the funders are feeling a little bit weird right now, and they're not funding the fighters. So this is a time, because the funds are a little bit shaky until, I guess, maybe they feel like they need to just see where things are going. We're still, can you believe it's not even been a full year since the election happened? What the heck? So with that said, people are still kind of getting their bearings with all of the Twilight Zone-ness that is happening. And this is a good time to start to create. This is a good time to get in the labs with each other, to sit around and start talking and collaborating and sharing ideas and writing and putting stuff together so that when the funds, I believe, the dust is gonna settle a little bit at some point, and that the funders are gonna get a little bit of courage back and start to fund things again. And we wanna be ready. We wanna be ready with our ideas. We wanna be ready with those scripts. We got it. Look, we got a Broadway show for y'all that is about these issues. We have a movie, we have a TV show, we have an ad campaign, y'all. We have an album ready. that's what we need to be ready with when the funds start opening up. So let's just start collaborating. Let's start talking, y'all.
Thank you so much.
Sean, I think of imagination, I think a lot of what we need is evidence of interdependence. The mobile unit is performed in parks alongside neighbors for free to activate civic space as a source of storytelling that, you're alongside your neighbors and you can watch a story together. And how often are there things that invite me to gather with my neighbors? We're so lucky in New York compared to the rest of the country, by the way, on how we can gather in public space. And then in public works, there's members from all 5 boroughs on stage. And we say often, it's not about everyone becoming friends. People are very different from each other up to degrees where that conflict, of course, arises every single year. But it's sort of how do we find ways of collaboration across difference to demonstrate interdependence, because it's not a matter of preference. We are not a program that is serving people in isolation. People should gather around identity. We need that desperately. We should gather in community. But there are moments where we need to explore and experiment with, okay, what does it mean to collaborate at a larger capacity? Because whether we like it or not, we are interdependent. That is just a biological fact. Nothing in the ecosystem works on its own. It doesn't exist to be independent. So that's what comes to my mind for what we need in imagination.
Yes, and free. I love that. Free. Do it. Just get started. Do it. Go out
Yeah.
there and be in the public spaces for free. I love that.
Yeah, that was a thought that I had after your comment as well. How do we do it anyway? How do we do all the good work anyway? I don't know if any of you have this experience. I have anxiety, generally. And I'm learning a lot about anxiety. And what is so incredibly beautiful and powerful and sometimes so unbelievably frustrating about the human brain is that we are exceptional meaning makers. We have wonderfully powerful imaginations. And I don't know about anyone else, but I am exceptionally good at expecting the worst on a subconscious level. I don't know what you could possibly blame for that. And as I am working on healing, my relationship to my mind, to my spirit, it is striking me over and over again that we feel the things we feed, we anticipate the worst, and then we summon it into our lives. We have this exceptional power to either ideate and generate or to sabotage. Whether you call it the law of attraction or whatever approach you might take to mental health, spiritual health, that is all part. As the last panel mentioned as well, that is all part of battling the climate crisis. Hopelessness, nihilism, those are tools of colonization, of capitalism, of fascism, because they fracture our ability to envision that anything could be different. So how will we ever summon it? How will we ever create it if we are divorcing ourselves from the opportunity to allow our bodies to experience it? When you are studying theater, when you are approaching theater from a technical perspective, you might have the opportunity to do imagination exercises, to stand in a room with other people and imagine a world around you, to imagine things between you, to, as we heard from Nate about preparing for direct action, to summon that feeling into the body, to give a placebo experience so that the nervous system can begin responding truthfully as a whole person under imaginary circumstances. That's the core of acting, but it is also the core of creating. We have this incredible ability to do that in our lives. I know that I don't do that enough, but what if it meant getting together, putting on the show at a terribly low budget because we don't have the funding anyway, taking ourselves through these practices, introducing ourselves to the power of our imagination in a generative, hopeful, creative way. We're doing it all the time anyway. We all have anxiety, right? Like, we're doing this anyway. We're just doing it for all the bad things. So what if we take it upon ourselves and our communities and the institutions that we already have to spend dedicated time nurturing imagination for the better, so that we begin to not just attract, but also perceive, and then have the ability to discern positive, brighter, more inventive solutions.
I'm there with you, Nate. I'm like, Ruth, you should just give a lecture at this point. Girl, this is like the Ruth lecture. Okay, y'all are gonna hate me. I lied to y'all. It was just one question from the audience. Look, I'll look this way so y'all can give. Look. I know this is a poppin' panel, right? It's like this is the panel that really brought the joy, right? You guys can find our panelists here. Stop, talk to them, but do not berate them. Look, I'm gonna bring the sass into this panel a little bit. I've been in this movement way too long to not allow that. First of all, before we move to the performance, I do want to, thank Climate Power for sponsoring us. Thank you so much. I love my team at Climate Power and being a part of the Creative Council, by the way, so I see them over there. Yes, Antonique as well. And thank you to Yerba Madre and Liquid Death for the drinks and the in-kind support. Thank you. If you guys haven't had any, go try some. Warning, it is heavily caffeinated with the Yerba Madre. So if you're wanting to wake up, this is it. And then thank you to the photographers, videographers, everyone that is working, volunteering for the summit. This is our first one, y'all. This is the first one, and first of many, by the way. So I'm really happy to be also another co-founder with Nate and Amy and Andre, who's running around somewhere, putting on this summit together. Shall we?
Yeah, before the